Friends and viewers, Albert Camus, a very famous philosopher and writer, also a Nobel Prize winner for literature, had written a very famous novel, The Plague. So today we are going to discuss about the plague. This is the story about a plague, the epidemic in the large Algerian city of Oran in April. Thousands of rats stagger into the open and die. When a mild hysteria grips the population, the newspaper began clamoring for action. The authorities finally arranged for the daily collection and cremation of the rats. Soon thereafter, Mr. Michael, the concierge of the building where Dr. Rioch's work, dies after falling ill with a strange fever. When a cluster of similar cases appear, Dr. Rioch's colleague Castle becomes certain that illness is the bubonic plague. He and Dr. Rioch are found forced to confront the indifference and denial of authorities and other doctors in their attempts to urge quick, decisive action. Only after it becomes impossible to deny that the serious epidemic is ravaging Oran, do the authorities enact strict sanitation measures, placing the whole city under quarantine. The public reacts to their sudden imprisonment with intense longing for absent loved one. They indulge in selfish personal distress, convinced that their pain is unique in comparison to common suffering. Father Fenelon delivers a stern sermon, declaring that the plague is God's punishment for Oran's sin. Raymond Lambert endeavors to escape Oran to rejoin his wife in Paris, but the city bureaucrats refuse to let him leave. He tries to escape by illegal means with the help of Courtard's criminal associate. Meanwhile, Rioch, Thoreau, and Grant doggedly battle the death and suffering wrought by the plague. Rambert finalizes escape plan, but after Thoreau tells him that Rioch is likewise separated from his wife, Rambert is ashamed to flee. He chooses to stay behind and help fight the epidemic. Courtard committed a crime which he does not name. In the past, so he has lived in constant fear of arrest and punishment. He greets the plague epidemic with open arms because he no longer feels alone in his fearing suffering. He accumulates a great deal of wealth as a smuggler during the epidemic. After the term of exile lasts several months, many of Oran's citizens loses their selfish obsession with personal suffering. They come to recognize the plague as a collective disaster that is everyone's concern. They confront their social responsibility and join the anti-plague effort. When Othon's small sons suffer a prolonged, excruciating death from the plague, Dr. Rioch shouts at Penelon that he was an innocent victim. Penelon, deeply shaken by the boy's death, delivers a second sermon that modifies the first. He declares that the inexplicable death of innocent force the Christian to choose between believing everything and believing nothing about God. When he falls ill, he refuses to consult a doctor, leaving his fate entirely in the hands of divine providence. He dies clutching his crucifix, but the symptoms of the illness do not match those of the plague. Dr. Rioch records him as a doubtful case. When the epidemic ends, Courtard cannot cope. He begins randomly firing his gun into the street until he is captured by the police. Grant, having recovered from about a bout of plague, vows to make a fresh start in life. Thoreau dies just as the epidemic is waning, but he battles with all his strength for his life, as he helped Rioux battle for the lives of others. Rambert's wife joins him in Oran after the city gates are finally opened, but Dr. Rioux' own wife dies of prolonged illness before she and her husband can be reunited. The public quickly return to its old routine, but Rioux knows that the battle against the plague is never over because the Bacillus microbe can lie dormant for years. The plague is his chronicle of the scene of human suffering that all too many people are willing to forget. So this novel is written by Albert Camus in 1945. The Black Albert Camus is a well-known writer. He is also a philosopher, an existentialist philosopher who had written many books. So, ladies and gentlemen, The Plague is a very symbolic novel. It is about human suffering, about human life and its baselessness. It is about the freedom of choice. It is about the free will. It is about the absurdity of life. The Plague by Albert Camus. I hope you will enjoy this novel when you read it. Thank you very much for the patient listening. Thank you.